The promise of freedom has always been bound to the material. A starving man is not free. A family living under the monthly threat of eviction is not sovereign. A person forced to trade dignity for shelter is not a citizen. They are property's tenant. And in the eyes of Enlightenment, that is tyranny. No scroll, no constitution, no ballot matters when the floor beneath you is a leased permission slip. Liberty must begin at the foundation, stone, mortar, and soil, claimed not in theory, but in lived, uninterrupted permanence. The Minnesota Housing Sovereignty Act begins there. 5,000 sovereign homes printed and placed into the hands of the people was never the destination. It was the proof, a functional architecture of material dignity, deployed without begging capital for kindness or bribing the market with subsidies. These first homes are the seed, but just as important as their fabrication is the society they make possible. Once rooted, the system gains mass, then velocity, but what matters most is how that momentum is directed, not just toward scale, but toward justice. In 2031, when the hubs begin scaling up, the program doesn't simply increase output. It begins to integrate purpose. A sovereign housing initiative without a commitment to the unhoused is not sovereignty. It is exclusivity. From this point on, the program sets aside 10% of all monthly production for those with no home, no income, and no stability. This is not a waiting list. It is not shelter. It is not a cot in a gymnasium. These are sovereign homes, fully equipped, private, permanent. The lease-to-own model remains, but it does not begin until the resident is ready. Employment, stability, routine, those come in time. Until then, they are housed, secure, warm, free from the violence of contingency. This is not charity. It is not even generosity. It is design, because the Enlightenment teaches us not just to hope for better systems, but to build them. When we eliminate rent as a gatekeeper for survival, we stop throwing people off cliffs and blaming them for not flying. Housing first is not a moral gesture. It is civilizational engineering. It reduces emergency room visits. It slashes public safety budgets, drained by reactive policing. It frees up mental bandwidth. It unlocks time. Time to heal, to apply, to rest, to contribute. And it does all this for less than what we currently pay to keep people in motels, jail cells, and trauma. This is solidarity with an infrastructural backbone, a moral commitment that pays for itself. And we don't frame this for public approval by appealing to pity. We call it what it is: on-ramp housing. Transitional but permanent, a starting point without the cruelty of meritocratic entry fees, because austerity is a philosophy of control. Enlightenment is a philosophy of empowerment. The state does not rescue. It removes the obstacle. The citizen rises from there. The hubs themselves evolve in kind. Each is no longer just a point of production, but also of design. Alongside fabrication, a beta version of the Sovereign Design Studio is introduced. This platform, developed in partnership with state universities and regional architects, lets future residents begin shaping the aesthetic and functional form of their future homes. Not an infinite customization, this isn't indulgence, but within a framework of structural integrity. The act of home design becomes accessible, intuitive, and real. The printer is the tool, but the resident becomes the shaper. This isn't the state issuing keys to uniform units. It's the people co-authoring their own shelter, their own structure, their own future. Beauty within function. Identity within durability. This is not the gray brutalism of 20th century collectivism. This is Enlightenment at the granular scale. The materials shift too, not just in response to cost or climate, but to sovereignty itself. As hempcrete becomes a core composite, the state could forge lasting partnerships with tribal nations already cultivating industrial hemp. Sovereignty meets sovereignty. Local wealth, community input, and intergenerational knowledge fuse into the supply chain. The material of liberation is literally grown in our soil. It is molded not by distant corporations, but by hands rooted in the land. As the years pass, each hub matures, production increases, supply chains stabilize, and the mutual aid wing grows. By 2040, each hub is delivering 150 to 200 sovereign homes per month to those without address, without access, without a chance in the old world. And with each home placed, the system itself becomes more stable. That's the irony the capital class never grasps. Security is efficient. When people are housed, they cost less. They work more. They vote. They show up. They become. The republic is not built on GDP. It is built on continuity, a life that can be lived without interruption. This is not ideology. It is public reason applied to public need, a science of governance drawn not from profit incentives, but from Enlightenment principle, the defense of life, the construction of liberty, and the cultivation of human dignity. And what better foundation than a home no one can take from you? Landlordism is not a natural law. It is not a pillar of civilization. It is a parasite wearing the robes of order. The Enlightenment promised freedom. We deliver it, house by house, roof by roof. Not by asking politely, not by reforming the predator, but by building something the predator cannot infect. A parallel infrastructure of permanence, powered by solidarity, guided by reason, and grounded in the unshakable premise that housing is not a commodity. It is the first tool of liberty. Minnesota will lead, not in rhetoric, not in moral posturing, but in blueprint, brick and breath. The sovereign home is not an ideal. It is a structure. You can touch it, live in it, grow old within it, and one day hand it down, not as debt, but as inheritance. Enlightenment is not dead. It just needs shelter. And now, we build it.